Hi, in this lesson we're going to talk about workers' comp and return to work programs. In workers' comp, we're just going to do a quick history on why we have workers' compensation, and then some of the roles, responsibilities of the insurance carrier, the adjuster, and even our own workers' comp coordinator here, on-time staffing. And after that, we'll talk about different options that you have as far as return to work programs if an employee is injured and is on modified duty, and what types are available for them at the client site, if any. Hopefully there are. So to start, let's talk about the history of workers' compensation. Prior to 1911, if an employee was injured, there wasn't any benefits available for them, so he or she had to sue the employer. And that took a very long time. The employees had to go months without pay. So it was very difficult to survive back then if you were injured, especially you had a life-changing injury with amputation or some type of disability. So in order to protect the employees and give them some type of compensation or money while on disability or because they were injured, we now have workers' compensation laws. So when we talk about workers' compensation and the costs associated with them, we want to reduce, because workers' compensation insurance is very expensive and injuries are very expensive. So we want to do, obviously, is to prevent as many injuries as possible or limit the amount of their injury as far as getting them medical treatment as soon as possible, getting them physical therapy, so that way they could return to work sooner. And we want to do that because obviously for money. And how do we do that? We want to make sure we emphasize on safety programs. We want to have trainings available. We want to have orientations. We want to do the injury investigations to prevent all these injuries from happening in the first place. Because for post-loss, meaning an injury already happened, an injury has been reported to us, and an injury has been turned into the insurance, that's when we start having to put money aside for that claim, which impacts our net income here on time staffing, and it's a lagging impact on the on-site location. So for pre-loss communication, what can we do to inform the employees of workers' compensation, on our policies for return to work, put them at ease sometimes when they're not sure about what to do when they are injured, what rights they have. So all this can be done at orientation. And I know some sites or some of you may not want to do that at orientation, just because you may think that the more you tell them, the more educated they'll be, so the more they'll be able to report an injury or maybe file claims. But sometimes the reason employees don't file claim, go outside, retain legal representation, is because they're not sure, they're not aware of their rights. Some of them think that if they report their injury, they will be fired. They think that because they don't have personal insurance and they're injured at work, they're not going to get treated. So just a lot of reasons why employees don't report injuries or they seek legal representation. So by telling them during orientation, it kind of puts them at ease a little bit, especially if it's a major injury and they need to be on modified duty. We should be letting them know, hey, if in case you are injured, we do have a return to work program here, so that way you are working in some type of capacity until you're getting better and return to full duties. And then here in California, it's a good idea to go over their NPN let them know that if you are going to treat, you have to be within the network, the insurance network, how to obtain medical treatment and compliance with physician panels, and then again coordinate and let them know about the return to work program. We can also let them hand out newsletters, trainings, safety trainings, what to do in case you are injured. Report it right away. We need to get you the medical treatment. We need to investigate it as soon as possible to prevent it from happening again. And the goal behind that is to promote awareness of workers' comp procedures, ensure existing procedures work smoothly, make sure all employees know what to do if they're injured at work. And then we also want to, it's very important we let our client supervisor manager know what to do if one of our employees are injured. They should be contacting us. Our employees should not be filling out their paperwork, and they definitely should not be going to their clinic. We should be called immediately. So you as the on-site manager, on-site coordinator, whenever an employee does report an injury to you, make sure to follow SOP guidelines and report it to safety and risk immediately. We want to make sure we are reporting the claim immediately, and we want to make sure we're giving the employees the treatment, medical treatment, if needed, as soon as possible. The sooner we're able to treat the employees, the faster they will be able to recuperate and get better and get back to work. And some of the effects of late reporting, in violation of state reporting requirements, it compromises ability to investigate and determine compensability. The longer an employee waits to report it, or the longer it's reported to safety and risk, the more difficult, especially within weeks, the more difficult it is to investigate and to determine if it was even work-related. It negatively impacts the lag time statistics, gives the impression that the employer does not care about the employee, and then also helps us measure results and holds employee and management accountable for prompt reporting. Notice and reporting. Best practices. Injured workers are required to give notice to the OTS management team or another individual in a managerial position. Advising a coworker of the client's management is not considered as proper notice, so the employee needs to notify somebody from OTS. Make sure the client is aware and uses our notice and reporting procedures. You want to notify all managers that this is the trigger to start the investigation and the employer's reporting process. If an employee expresses a desire to file a claim, he or she must be permitted to do so. They cannot be denied that. And impress upon the employee that this is the carrier's responsibility to determine compensability, not the employer. So if it's denied for some reason, if it comes back that it may not be work-related, that is a decision from the carrier, not on-time staffing. During your investigation, you want to record the details. You want to complete the incident investigation report. Get any witness statements if possible, if there was witness. Obtain a statement from the injured worker's supervisor. Those can be key witness statements as well, because the supervisor can tell you that the employee's production never went down, although the employee is telling you that his or her back hurt so much that he had to work at a slower pace. But yeah, the supervisor is telling you that that's not the case. Review report with injured worker to ensure all information is accurate. And then an injured worker should sign and date on the bottom. Make sure the accident report is filled out completely and accurately. Failure to do so can have a negative impact on the claim. Again, we need as much information as possible, complete information. That way we're able to process, and we could do a thorough investigation and get down to the root cause, and which will help us to prevent future incidents. Believe it or not all employees are always truthful during these injury reportings, and some of you may have experienced this, that some, we'll call them troubled employees, like to stretch the truth sometimes. And or they want to retaliate by reporting an injury. So if you do during the course of your investigation, if you have any relevant information that you can provide to the risk department, and then risk department will provide that to insurance carrier, please do so. Anything like previous medical history, if you knew they were out maybe 2 weeks ago due to a car accident, you knew they fell down their stairs at home, if they recently went on vacation or off of work, or they wanted a day off, didn't get a day off, anything, attendance problems, stuff like that, you want to relay that information to us as well. And also any red flags during their injury reporting. Red flag would be if the employee is changing his stories a lot, changing the times of when it happened, the dates when it happened, of any witnesses that were there or not there. Any type of that information you want to let us know as well. For suspicious timing, a big red flag is reporting an injury Monday mornings after they have been off over the weekend. A lot of times that tells you maybe they did something at home or over the weekend that is causing their pain, but now they're at work trying to report it as a work-related claim. So that's a big red flag. You never want to you also never want to tell the employee that you think their claim is suspicious. Just write down the information that they're giving you, and then turn that into risk. So by doing an investigation, it would help the adjuster figure out whether it is compensable or not. Maybe it will be a cause for reasonable suspicion drug test or an alcohol test. Address the safety concerns and breakdowns in any process. Job duties, training, do they need to be retrained or whatever jobs they were doing. Safety awareness for other employees as well. And then the incident reporting process too. Is it working? So once an employee reports the injury to you, you fill out the injury investigation report, and the employee wants to go to the doctor or the clinic. You need to notify Tara immediately. She will authorize the treatment at the clinic, and then you should follow up with Tara as well to see if what was the outcome of that visit to the doctor. Was the employee released back to regular work? Was he put off of work? Does he have restrictions? And we're going to talk about this further, but then if the employee does have restrictions, you want to coordinate with Tara if there will be a return to work job task for that employee. That way we could get them the modified duty letter for them to sign off on. And that when you do give her the information of the mod duty position, you want to let her know the job that they're going to be doing, be specific, their hours, their pay, and the supervisor that they will be reporting to, because all that has to be put in writing in the letter that the employee needs to sign. So once the employee is injured and you want to keep in communication with him or her, you want to keep a positive attitude with the employee. You want to be sincere. Ask them how they're doing, how they're feeling. Is there anything you can do to help them? How's the treatment going? Are they having any problems with the clinic or anything that has to do with the treatment? Show empathy and treat them with respect and dignity is a big one. That you don't want the employee to feel like they're being treated differently or retaliated against because they reported an injury. If the employee is out of work, maybe they were placed on disability, give them a phone call every few days and ask them how they're doing. And the workers' comp coordinator, so Tara in this case, she reports the claims. Once she gets information from you, just so you have an idea what she does, she gets information from you, she reports that to the carrier, and then the carrier will determine the compensability or the denial of the claim. And they also begin some medical case management to set up follow-up appointments, physical therapy, or any other specialist, orthopedics that they have to go to, whatever other testing that they maybe have to be done, a CT scan, so all that she has to deal with, communicate with the insurance carrier so they can coordinate all that testing or visits. The carrier has to update the claim, and she has to keep Tara informed of what's going on with the claim, what appointments the injured employee has. If it's questionable, maybe they will set up a surveillance. They'll raise or lower the reserves depending what type of treatment the employee is getting. And then a short-term action plan for that employee. The adjuster will also assign the claim depending on what type it is. So if it's a lost time claim and questionable claim, they're assigned to an investigative unit adjuster, which takes the highest priority. These claims cost more money because if it's lost time, that means it's a major injury, or if it's a questionable claim that needs investigation, that means that the employee is going to want to stretch that injury out as long as possible. The medical-only claims are assigned to medical-only department, just the lower priority, and no investigation unless requested or flagged as a questionable claim. There has to be communication, obviously, between the employee, the doctor, the OSM or OSC, risk and safety department, a nurse case manager, one is assigned, and then attorneys. So you always want to relay as much information that you obtain from the employee, from the doctors, to risk. Whatever information you get from risk, you want to let the employee know about any appointments that he or she may not be aware of. And just know the adjuster maintains control of the claim and follows strategy with communication with Tara. All right. Return to work programs. Make sense. Get it? Sense. Oh wow. Go back. Anyway, so So why do we want to have a return to work program? Why do we want to work with the client and let them know, what can our injured employees do? Ask them, can they pick up trash? Can they file for you, shred, whatever it is? Why do we want that? Well, when an employee is sitting at home, first of all, because there is no return to work program, not only are they looking at all these attorney commercials, which gets an idea on their head, but they feel like they're not contributing, they're not working, they're not making a difference at work, they feel left out. And when they feel that way, they feel like we don't care about them, we don't want them at work, we're punishing them by leaving them at home, not at work, and that's when they want to go a different route and maybe obtain legal representation. And by them being at work, however small the position, the modified or the duty position is, at least they feel like they're still at work, they're still working, they're still making money, they're still contributing some way at the site. And also, if we don't have a return to work program, there's lots of productivity. So even if the employee could still could go back to their normal duties, but just maybe in the lesser capacity. So instead of having to make 100 parts of something an hour, they now just have to make 50. So half of that. At least they're doing something. And also reduces the cost of replacing a worker if that injured employee can still do their regular job duties some way, somehow. Some of the statistics for return to work programs is 60% of workers who are off of work beyond 14 days are in financial trouble. So you think about that, 60% they're off of work for 14 days. So they're at home, they're not at work, they're only getting paid 66% of their normal income while on disability, and they're in financial trouble. So what do you think is going to go through their head once they see a commercial about an attorney saying they could get you $1.2 million from a workplace injury? They're going to want to pick up the phone and make that phone call. So we want to keep them at work. If an injured worker is off the job for 6 or more months, he has only a 50% chance of returning. And if it's over 1 year, there's only 25% chance of that injured worker returning to work. So when employees come back, they have restrictions. Depending on whatever restrictions they have, there's different types of outcomes that will happen from those restrictions. So the first one will be a return to work full duty. The employee tripped, had a small contusion to the leg. They're perfectly fine. They're able to go back to work full duty. They could return to work released to temporary restrictions, which means they can't do the normal duties. They have just temporary restrictions while they feel better. They get better until they are released to full duty again, which we want to put them in a return to work program. They could also have return to work release with a permanent partial disability, which would mean that they no longer can do the normal job duties. Now they need another job permanently within their new restrictions. There's also a permanent total disability, which is the worst case, but of course I think the next one is the worst case of fatality. But for the permanent total disability, that pretty much means the employee is not able to work at all. So when an employee litigates when they litigate or they want to settle a claim, there's different factors that go into how much money they're going to get. They're not going to get the $1.2 million that was on TV. That one was probably an extreme case of somebody with maybe legs were amputated. But once they want to settle the claim, all these factors are considered. Has the employee reached MMI, which is maximum medical improvement? Is it the maximum that he's going to be at his best? I mean, can he get any better than that? If the answer is no, that means he's MMI. Can you accommodate the employee's restrictions? Will he still have a job with you? Evaluate probable exposure. Age and the level of education of the employee. So is he a young employee? How many years of work is he losing out of? Employee's future employment in the marketplace. Can he even still do the same type of job? Necessity for Medicare or set aside. The leverage to mitigate value of a settlement is vocational rehabilitation. Can we get them training to do something else? And obtain resignation and general release. Typically financial consideration required and not paid by the workers' comp claim. All right, now we're going to go into part 2, which we're going to go into more detail on the return to work program. So let's start with the definition of return to work program, and that is a post-injury procedure created to ensure quality medical care, contain medical costs, and reduce opportunities for litigation. Again, we want to contain medical costs by getting them back to work sooner. We want to reduce opportunities for litigation by having the employee feel more involved at work and then keeping them away from their home. And the objective is to return the injured worker to full duty at the earliest possible time. Now, does management have a role in this? Absolutely. Management has to be proactive in the process, focus the resources on educating the employees about return to work, loss reporting, and then be open and flexible to modified work duties. So even if you can't find something at the client site, maybe you can find something in your office that the employee can do. Work is always the best medicine. On-site locations commitment to partial or total immediate accommodation is required. Communication with all parties is vital with the employee, family, physician, insurance carrier, and the work comp coordinator. In order for this process to succeed, we also need a partnership between corporate, safety and risk, the on-site location. Definitely the client is a big player in this. The employees, medical providers, and insurance carrier. So, the methods to return your employee back to work. So there's going to be different types. The first one is modified work. So modified work is when an injured employee is brought back to work and placed temporarily in an existing job that is not as difficult or strenuous as their normal job. It must be within their restrictions. So, for example, if the employee used to be a material handler and they used to unload boxes, and the weight of these boxes ranged, we'll say 50 pounds, up to 50 pounds, and they constantly had to reach above their shoulders. If the employee is injured and then the restriction is no lifting over 40 pounds and no lifting above the shoulders, and we place that employee, we'll say, in the packing position where the boxes there range 15 to 20 pounds and it's always at waist level. That would be a modified work for that employee because it's in this existing job that we have there already. We don't have to create anything new. They're just doing something temporarily. The next one is restricted work. This is where an injured worker is brought back to their normal position or job, but with restrictions placed by the attending physician. So going back to the loader position, instead of having to, because the employee cannot lift up to 50 pounds, say they can only lift 25 pounds, now they're doing the normal job, normal position, but with the restriction of not lifting over 25 pounds. And you see here, an example of this could be a 50 pounds weight restriction and or no more than 20 hours a week. A temporary assignment, this involves a position that are specifically created to accommodate the restrictions of a doctor. They may have been previously established or created as an injuries dictate. So now we're making a totally new position for the employee. Maybe there is no position that entails picking up trash all day at the client's site. So we make a temporary assignment for that employee because he can't lift more than 3 pounds. The employee just walks around and picks up trash, that whatever he or she finds on the floor. That would be a temporary assignment. Sometimes a temporary assignment could be because the employee can only do sit-down work. It can be something in the office where the employee is helping you make applications, highlight, shred, staple, whatever it is. That would be a temporary assignment. One thing I do want to mention about return to work or temporary assignments is that although you do have to be nice to the employee, You want to be sincere with the employee. You don't want to get the employee too comfortable on their assignment. And here's why. If the employee is sitting on the desk, making applications, helping you highlight, and he's able to maybe you build a friendship with him, and he feels too comfortable. Here's the employee is not going to want to return back to his or her regular work. So when that happens, sometimes they'll go back to the doctor and say, you know what, my back still hurts. I think I need to be a modified work another week. And they tend to extend that longer than if they weren't as comfortable, they really didn't like the position. They just want to go back to their regular work. They don't want to be in that office or doing that temporary assignment. So there's a fine line there. You can definitely be nice to the employee, but don't get them too comfortable. You want to make sure they want to go back to the regular work. Another thing with temporary assignments, try to find something out in the warehouse, in the facility where the injured employee is working for the client. When they do that, we are able to bill the client, so it's a billable position versus the employee sitting in our office. That's not now a non-billable position. So it's better to make a billable position out at the client site. So now let's talk about workers' comp, a work comp coordinator. In this case, Tara. She authorizes and manages treatment for the injured employee. They facilitate the process of returning the injured worker back to work as soon as medically appropriate. She also acts as the liaison between the corporate office, on-site location, doctor, and the insurance carrier. So she talks to all these different parties to try to get the employee the best care, the fastest care, and get them back to work as soon as possible. She also ensures quality medical care for your employee, helps maintain medical costs by analyzing doctor's orders, requirements, and challenges if deemed unnecessary or inappropriate. Believe it or not, sometimes doctors will want to overtreat and do all kinds of different tests when it's not really required. So the workers' comp coordinator will step in and be like, you know what, this test is not required for this. It's above and beyond. It's not needed. We're not going to authorize this. Assist in creating and submitting light duty offer letters, manage care until EE is returned back to full duty, and then the workers' comp coordinator also manages litigated claims. Please have a compassionate response when you have an injury. Be sure to give an explanation of the benefits. Maintain the employee communication. Obtain the doctor's physical capacities evaluation or release. Be sure to give an explanation of the benefits. When an injured employee initially reports an injury to you, you definitely don't want to deny medical attention, but at the same time, sometimes the employees just need to rest in the break room for 15-20 minutes. Maybe they could go home for the rest of the day and come back the next day to see how they're feeling, and then we could reevaluate them then. So just let them know, hey, you could go to the doctor if you want, or you could just go home for the rest of the day, relax, put some ice on it, take a pain medication, and come back tomorrow, and then we'll see how you feel, and then we could send you to the doctor if you feel you're not getting any better. So that is an option as well. Oops, too far. So again, when an employee is released to light duty after he or she sees the doctor, you need to put together a work transition offer or a return to work offer letter, which is given to you by the workers' comp coordinator, and make sure the offer letter is within attending physician's parameters. So If the doctor says the employee cannot bend at all, you don't want to find a position that has to do, with picking up trash or something off the floor, because the employee is going to be required to bend. Decide on the hours and days to work, agree on the rate of pay, and then present the offer to the employee with management presence. If the employee is not released to light duty, if the doctor tells you, we don't have, the employee cannot work light duty at all because he can't stand, let them know. Usually the phone call will come to corporate anyway, but we would let the doctors know that no matter the restrictions, we will find something for the employee to do. Even if it's just sit down work, there will be something available, so that way the doctor could get him or release him to modified work, and we can find the position there on site. And ask the doctor. Sometimes we have to ask the doctors, what would it take to have the employee released back to work? Does the employee have to alternate 2 hours standing, 2 hours sitting, walk 15 minutes to stretch legs, whatever it is, whatever it takes? Ask the doctor, how do we get the employee back to modified work on site? We don't want them off of work. Once you present the employee with a return to work offer letter, and the employee refuses to sign it or accept it, they have that right. But let them know that because there is a job available and they don't want to accept it, then we cannot pay the employee because they're not working. We do have, it's not like we don't have nothing available for them. We have something available. They're refusing to take the position, so they will not get paid from that point on. But it's important to let the employee know that we will still pay for and treat their injury. So it's important for them to keep their appointments every week, every 2 weeks, their physical therapy appointments, whatever it is, at the doctor. So they make sure, even though they're not getting paid for work, we are paying for their injury. And if they miss 3 consecutive doctor visits, we can administratively discharge them, which will terminate their benefits, and we will no longer authorize treatment at the doctor if they are not showing up to their appointments. And here's some insight. Anything paid out on a claim will affect your experience modification rate and loss ratio, which are contributing factors in dictating our insurance premium. So just so you have an idea, the experience modification, or XMOD rate, is kind of like a credit score, your credit score, but this is for a company, and this is based on your injuries, the frequency of your injuries, the severity, how much you're paying for your injuries, and pretty much everybody starts at a 1, and the more injuries you're having, the more costly your injuries. It can go above a 1 to 1.2, 1.3, and that's when your insurance premium will go up. If it goes underneath the 1, that's when you're saving on insurance premium because you have a great safety program, you're not having too many injuries, you're being very proactive, and that's when we save as a company. So we want to be below 1, far below 1 as much as possible. So it is in everyone's best interest to find something for that injured worker to do to lessen the expenditures of the insurance carrier, which means when we have a return to work program, the employee is at work, they're working. When we don't have one, or we don't make a position available for the injured worker, the employee is at work, at home. If the employee is at home, he is placed on TTD, which is temporary total disability. And when we do that, the insurance will raise our premiums, and we have to allocate more money into that claim. So we want to stay away from that. So find a return to work program there or position there on site. If you have any questions throughout any of this process, if you're not too sure what would be the right position, if you're not too sure what to ask an employee, if they have a concern about their treatment, whatever it is, please feel free. Always reach out to the work comp coordinator and safety manager. We'll be more than happy to assist you with any of this. All right. Well, thank you for your time. We will talk to you next time.